Most on the street have not heard sweet things about the billionaire dressed in a candy-striped coat dress today. This man cried off with the Queen's head. She had his. Jerry McCarthy is a former Helmsley executive, an engineer. When the Helmsleys decided to improve their $11 million Connecticut mansion, McCarthy helped find contractors. But he testified he wasn't about ready to help Leona cheat the government. He says he repeatedly refused to sign phony bills designed to charge their mansion renovation to the Helmsleys' hotels. When he balked, he told the jury Leona called and said, you're not my partner. You sign what you're told to sign, and she hung up. McCarthy explained that for years she had called him a thief, and now she wanted him to be one. McCarthy also testified today that the billionaire cheated contractors, like refusing to pay a $13,000 barbecue area bill. When he begged her, pointing out that the Irish guy has 6 kids to support, he claims Leona quipped he should keep his pants on, then he wouldn't have so many problems. McCarthy says he went to Harry, got approval to pay the contractor $10,000. But he says when Leona got wind of it, he got calls, lots of calls, late one night. McCarthy testified that Leona's right-hand man, Mr. Turco, said, she's furious. If you don't reimburse it personally, you're gone, fired. McCarthy says he finally did and was never reimbursed. But Mrs. Helmsley's attorney brought out that the alleged extortion demand was not made by his client, but by her co-defendant in the conspiracy, Frank Turco, a man the government calls Leona's henchman.
I felt I was a loyal employee.
And did exactly what Mrs. Helmsley told you?
I was a loyal employee, just as he said.
Would you? Are you the type of person who could ever do anything without your boss's approval?
No.
But as yet, there's been no testimony that Leona herself extorted cash. And the jury may be buying the argument that the Queen was so terrible, trembling employees did the shady stuff on their own. Mary Savello, News 4, New York.
And tomorrow...
New York.
And tomorrow, the jury will hear from the man in charge of work at the Helmsley mansion. He says the billionaire couple wouldn't pay him a dime.
After the attack today from a former employee at her tax evasion trial, Jeremiah McCarthy, a former Helmsley engineer, said the hotel queen cursed him out when he refused to sign phony invoices for construction work at the Helmsley, Connecticut estate. He said Mrs. Helmsley fired him back in 1985, but her husband Harry gave him money to settle his contract.
A former senior vice president for the Helmsley empire testified that Leona Helmsley threw a tantrum when he refused to sign a stack of phony invoices. Jeremiah McCarthy said at Leona Helmsley's tax evasion trial, those invoices were written up as if they were for work done on Helmsley-owned buildings. The bills, he said, were actually for work done on the private Helmsley estate. The hotel queen is accused of defrauding the government in millions in tax money and submitting nearly $4 million in false billings for renovations to their Connecticut mansion.
Still to reimburse the corporation for bills that she thought were too much. Mrs. Helmsley is accused of tax evasion and disguising millions of dollars in home improvements as business expenses. And Zsa Zsa
one tough boss, but she may have been too tough, and now she is paying for it. Some former Helmsley employees are painting a picture of New York's hotel queen, and as Channel 2's Barbara Nevins reports, it is far from a royal portrait.
As she left the courthouse tonight, a few people wished Leona Helmsley well.
Good luck. Thank you. I wish you luck. Thank you.
It wasn't so pleasant for her in the courtroom today as she faced yet another fired employee. When the Helmsleys bought Dunellen Hall, their Connecticut estate, in 1983, a Helmsley engineer, a senior vice president, was initially put in charge of the renovation. Jeremiah McCarthy said he was given a long-term contract by Harry Helmsley to protect him from Leona, who he said thinks everyone is a thief. McCarthy made the jurors laugh as he told story after story about Leona Helmsley screaming and cursing at him, how frequently she, quote, was ranting and raving that I was an idiot. Just our standard conversation, he said. As she yelled, she repeatedly fired him. One night, he said, he was fired twice. The funny stories have been entertaining for the jury, but the prosecutor primarily used McCarthy today to support the government's claim that Leona Helmsley ordered her employees to help her and her husband Harry cheat on their taxes. The jurors didn't laugh when McCarthy said he was ordered by Leona Helmsley's top financial aide to write phony vouchers, illegally billing renovations of Dunellen Hall, a personal residence, to Helmsley businesses. He refused to do it. Immediately, Leona Helmsley called him up, he said, yelling into the phone, "You blank." We can't use that word on TV. "You're not my partner. Don't tell me how to spend my money. McCarthy was later banished from Dunellen Hall. Leona Helmsley has been told by her lawyer not to talk to reporters, but I stopped her in the courthouse and asked her how she felt about what these people are saying about her. She grabbed my hand and put it to her face, shook her head, and promised that she would tell all when the trial is over. In Manhattan, Barbara Nevins, Channel 2 News.
Tax evasion trial told jurors today how the hotel queen reacted when he refused to sign what he called a stack of phony bills. Jeremiah McCarthy, a former employee in the billion-dollar Helmsley real estate empire, testified that Mrs. Helmsley told him, "You blank, you are not my partner, and you don't tell me how to spend my money. You sign what I tell you to sign." Helmsley is charged with tax fraud, claiming personal luxuries as business deductions. After
Leona Helmsley today, another form to the witness stand against the self-styled real estate queen. Channel 2's Barbara Nevins reports on this latest account of a scheme to disguise personal spending as a business expense.
Leona Helmsley left the courthouse after yet another ego-battering day. A Korean-born former Helmsley engineer